And now a game of Commercial Chicken, brought to you by Progressive, where we see how long Flo can go without talking about insurance. Ready? Go.
So, have you noticed how everyone's grammar is completely awful now? Like, the texting and the LOLs. Whatever happened to punctuation? I mean, drivers who switch to Progressive could save big!
Okay, you win. We can't help but save customers money. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates.
Here we are, folks, the live free scoreboard, your live tailgate party, tracing its roots back to the 1980s. So yes, the longest running sports betting broadcast on earth, especially when it comes to the NFL. I pay a lot of money to Comcraptastic for my gig speed, but the entire neighborhood's been affected the past 3 days. Let's not jinx it today. So far, so good. So hopefully we'll get through this entire broadcast with Comcast screwing us in the rear end. Yep, Joe Duffy's picks continues to win. 42-14 in football, 738 and 584 overall going back to August of last year. Many of the greatest runs in sports handicapping history have been by yours truly, and this is one of the better, 15-month runs in the history of sports betting. Sunday, 3 wise guy plays 4 majors in the NFL, off 2-1 in baseball, and yes, we continue to get better and better systems and trade systems and systems that are lasting, etc. That's why the best keeps getting better. Let's get straight to your news and notes for today. By the way, I'm going to have a free premium pick. So I've said I've got, 7 premium picks for today in the NFL. I'm going to give you one of them for free. Cardinals and the Vikings. Arizona has gone under 4-1. Minus 5.9 points per game, so they've gone under by a 5.9 points per game margin. Double-digit underdogs with winning percentages of 250 or less are 120, 87, and 4. What do we keep telling you? The NFL is a regression to the mean sport. That, of course, would benefit the Cardinals. Vikings are expected to get Dalvin Cook back at running back, but he will be on a pitch count. Minnesota 25-10. At home, under Mike Zimmer. And by the way, anybody, it's now 100% legal, no issues in my native state of New Jersey. Anyone watching from my native state, I know, as I keep saying, the rebroadcast is getting more views than the actual live broadcast. One of the reasons why we decided to go when ready, rather than an etched in stone time. So even if you're watching the rebroadcast, and if you're from my native state of New Jersey, where you can now legally bet at a casino, say hi. The Chargers and the Browns, road anti-splits angle that says go with road teams that are winless on the road and undefeated at home. 114, whoops, sorry about that. That's not an exact, it's, I definitely mistyped the numbers, but yeah, it benefits the Chargers. I have to go check to see what the exact system truly is. The mistyping there, I think it's 214 and 108 most likely. And by the way, NBA is here. NBA is even better than the NFL for the road anti-splits angles, as I like to call them. And again, 42-14 in the NFL, as good as the anti-splits angles are in the NFL, even better in the NBA, I guess, in part because there's more games, so that's why we've had even a lot more success. But very excited about the NBA being here. Mountain or Pacific time zone teams playing at 1 o'clock Eastern time are a go-against of 172, 123, and 5. That would, of course, benefit Cleveland. You know that I'm not a Phillip Rivers fan, so he's kind of my predictably unpredictable guy. We're going with an underdog in his games. It's usually a good idea, but I'll say it again. I'm not a big live bettor. All this work I do, I want to kind of relax, and not that I relax when I'm actually watching games where I get a lot of money going. I don't mess around with the live betting once, or don't mess around that much with the live betting. But with the Chargers, if they're behind, with Phillip Rivers, when he's trailing in a game, bet him on the live line. When he's way behind in a game, when he's way behind, bet him on the live line. When he's way ahead, bet against him. This guy is just the ultimate box of chocolates. But yeah, what is widely believed, traveling from west to east, especially on 1 o'clock Eastern games, it is 100% true that you do want to go against such teams. Going off of teams off of a win as a home underdog, though, is 406 and 318. That benefits San Diego. Remember, the Browns have already played 3 overtime games in their first 5. Chargers have, now hold on. We're going to have the biggest consensus plays. That was some notes from earlier in the week. We will have your biggest sharp versus square moves, your biggest public consensus plays based on numbers of bets, and your biggest public consensus plays based on money coming up. First Energy Stadium, the number 1 under stadium in the world, going under at a 74-47-1 rate. And there is a possibility of some wins, though it looked like there were going to be heavier wins earlier in the week still. If the winds are 10, check before game time. Winds at 10 miles per hour or stronger go under 439, 351, and 10. And yep, I've said it many, many times. When you look at NFL weather or football weather, the single most important thing is the winds, is the wind speed. That affects the totals. Precipitation is overrated if there's not serious winds. Now, I'm not talking about heavy downpours, but when you have a normal rainfall and there's no winds, the totals tend to drop, and that's when you want to fade the moves. Charged a little bit banged up, wide receiver Travis Benjamin and defensive end Joey Bosa both out. The Bears and the Dolphins. Miami quarterback Ryan Tannehill is questionable. Brock Osweiler would start in his place. Teams off of a blown 17-point or more lead and then losing by double digits or a go-against of 11-3 in this rare situation. By the way, that was another late info. Winner late info also goes back to the score phone. That thing has been ridiculously hot as well. Of course, like Joe Duffy's picks, wins long-term, and like Joe Duffy's picks, on fire. But that says to fade the Miami Dolphins and go with Chicago. However, a little bit of conflicting information. Teams that return home after blowing a double-digit lead after 3 quarters. They had a double-digit lead after 3 quarters. They're actually 59-40, so that would benefit the Dolphins. Bears 3-1 against the spread with a league-best 9.9 margin of cover. Again, some people call that the sweat barometer. It's how much a team is covering the spread by or not covering the spread by. But the Bears have been very good, obviously. Teams with at least 3 wins and off of their first 2 losses do bounce back at home, a decent 19-14 against the spread. That would benefit the Dolphins. So, a lot of people say that maybe the Dolphins are trending in the wrong direction, but the angles say, yeah, but now that's the time to bet on them. Fading home underdogs off consecutive losses, 104-78 against the spread. That would benefit Chicago. Dolphins have the worst run-blocking team, according to football metrics, versus the top run defense in Chicago. So the advanced metrics say Miami's going to struggle to run today. With the Dolphins, you definitely bet on inconsistency. That's really been our theme. They are banged up on offense. They are, and I think I mentioned, of course I mentioned at the top of the report, Ryan Tannehill. Keep an eye on his status. Panthers and the Redskins, road teams that are winless on the road, decent at home, are 179, 120, and 8. Say it time and time again, nothing is more overrated when it comes to handicapping spreads than straight up. And again, that's another one of our anti-splits angles. God, and when an anti-splits, this makes me so excited for NBA. But we still have a lot of great NBA systems. And again, later on in this report, some notes I had earlier in the week, but we're going to hear about this in our consensus, public consensus moves. Teams off of 20-point or more loss, 406, 339, and 17. That would benefit the Redskins. 61% of Cam Newton's road starts have gone under 36 and 23. Panthers should get Greg Olsen back, their tight end. Washington, though, banged up at skill positions. Jamison Crowder, running back Chris Thompson, wide receiver Paul Richardson. Those guys are out, but then Paul Richardson, a game-time decision. Crowder and Thompson are out. And don't forget, biggest sign-up bonus in the history of the industry from a legitimate sports book. Look, they're just getting more and more competitive. These even the top-notch sports books are giving massive sign-up bonuses, 100%. Even if you're a small bettor or you just want to try them out, it's very easy to navigate the site. I always look at it from my perspective. I'm internet savvy, so navigating any of these sites that I talk about is second nature. It's very easy. Any single sports book I recommend on offshoreinsiders.com They're all easy to navigate. They all pay you on time. But for those of you who aren't internet savvy, you're not going to have any problems. Setting up an account, withdrawing your money, depositing your money, mybookie.ag. Please use your promo code Duffy. That will make sure you'll get that 100% sign-up bonus. Plus, it shows your support for this free information. Colts and the New York Football Jets. Andrew Luck, 12-1 against the spread, off of a spread and against a spread loss. Jets could be down as many as 3 starters on defense, plus running back Isaiah Crowell. Steelers and the Bengals. Cincinnati's going over 4-1 by 9.7 points per game. Fading underdogs of 21 or more points is 111.84 against the spread. That says, what did I say? Fade underdogs off a 21-point or more win is 111.84 against the spread, and that would favor the Bengals, meaning fade the Steelers, who routed the Atlanta Falcons last week. Don't get much sleep on NFL weekends, and you can see if the lack of sleep, the hard work continues to pay off. Ben Roethlisberger, 10-5 straight up, 10-4-1 against the spread, is underdogs to a team with a winning percentage better than 500. He's 5-1 straight up and against the spread as an underdog to the Dolphins, or to the Bengals, that is. Pittsburgh, 7-1 straight up at Paul Brown Stadium, 15-2 straight up on the road to Marvin Lewis. The Bengals are a walking wounded team, to say the least, including wide receiver John Ross, who is doubtful. Buccaneers and the Falcons, Atlanta 1-4 against the spread with a league worst minus 7.2 margin of cover. Tampa's going over 4-0, led by a league-leading 13.4 points per game. Atlanta's going over 4-1 by 8.8 points per game. Jameis Winston will start at quarterback for Tampa, making his first start. Of course, he was suspended, and then, Fitzmagic was playing so well, but Jameis Winston gets a start. Falcons quarterback Matt Ryan, 6-17 is a favorite of a field goal or less. Divisional underdogs off of a bye, a very good play. Well, not a very good, a rock-solid play at 48-36. That would benefit Tampa. Falcons down 4 starters on defense. That's part of the reason, well, that's maybe the number one reason why they've been such an over team. Deion Jones, Ricardo Allen, Keanu O'Neal, plus defensive tackle Grady Jarrett likely out. Tampa likely to get the return of O.J. Howard, a tight end. Falcons vulnerable to the deep ball, and of course, Tampa throws deep often. Tampa league worst defense as far as passing yards per attempt, allowing 9.4. Now, that's the first time all season the Falcons may have the same starting lineup in back-to-back games, so at least some continuity. London's calling the Seattle Seahawks and the Raiders. Quarterback Russell Wilson for Seattle, 8-1 straight up, 6-2-1 against the spread off a home loss. Favorites in London, 14-7 against the spread. Many advanced metrics on Football Focus and Sports Info Solutions suggest the Raiders' offensive line the Seahawks' offensive line matches up very well to the Raiders. Some drizzle, though, is expected in London, and maybe 13 miles per hour winds. So overseas is where the weather could play a bigger factor. The Bills and the Texans go against teams off a win as a home underdog, 406-318. That would favor Houston. Houston quarterback Deshaun Watson has been upgraded to probable, and that's a good thing. Brandon Weedens are back up, but in case Watson is injured, and those of you who bet the live line at mybookie.ag using the promo code Duffy, D-U-F-F-Y, definitely keep that in mind. Non-playoff teams from the previous season that open up as double-digit favorites are a go against of 126-86. That would favor the Bills. Lamar Miller will return at running back for the Texans. Advanced metrics suggest these are the two of the worst offensive lines in football. And 10-mile-per-hour winds expected here. And like I say, that's right at, 10 to 15 miles per hour. That's when we start really paying attention. So it's, kind of right on the cusp of being significant there. Rams and the Broncos. Denver 0-4-1 minus 5.9 points per game. Big favorites in non-divisional games versus good rushing teams go under 35-8. This game, some temperatures, very low temperatures maybe in the 20s. Rams' Jared Goff has never started a game with temperatures freezing in either his college or his NFL career. Twice below 40 in the NFL. He lost both by a combined 13 points. Denver 0-2 as home underdogs of 7 or more, failing against the spread by an average of 14.5 points per game. Jaguars and the Cowboys. Dallas, the top under margin team in the NFL, at minus 6.8. They failed to cover by, or they failed to reach the total. Dallas is going under 4-1 by an average of 6.8 points per game, is what we're saying. The Jaguars, since week 1, are minus 8 in turnover margin, including minus 3 in each of their last 2 games. Dallas again without Sean Lee, the Jaguars without Leonard Fournette. Ravens and the Titans, Baltimore 3-2 at plus 8.6 points per game. That margin of cover is second in the league. Tennessee is going under 3-2, the second biggest under margin, going under by an average of 6.1. And above 500 teams in October or later as home underdogs are a go-against of 71-59. That would benefit the Ravens. Free pick, an actual free pick here, or an actual premium pick, I should say. We're going to go with Indianapolis plus the 2.5 against the New York Jets. That's what we released it at earlier in the week. Another road team off of a road loss angle. Road teams off of road loss are generally pretty good plays. This specific angle that applies today, 130 and 73. Bad teams that have been covering the spread continue to do so at a 173, 110, and 7 rate. That's our, have so many, our dichotomous straight up and ATS angles, what we call it. But essentially, when a team is covering but not winning, they're going to continue to cover because they're going to sneak under the radar. When a team is winning but not covering, they're going to continue to be a good go against because they're winning outright, so their value's not going to drop that much. And that's another angle that does pretty well in the NBA. Some Sunday night football stuff. Chiefs and the Patriots. Essentially, again, Kansas City's 5-0 straight up and 5-0 straight up and ATS. Third best margin of cover at 8.3. Essentially use the odds maker's knowledge against them. Perfect example. What do I tell you? That when the record says one team is better, but the odds makers say the other team is better, go with what the odds makers are saying. That angle is proven, and it applies to the Patriots. If you would look at the straight-up record, you would say New England should be less than a 3-point favorite. Of course, the normal home field advantage is 3, but the records would suggest Kansas City's the better team. So no way New England should be laying more than 3. But they are. So therefore, according to our metrics, and another one, again, this is another one of those angles that applies big time in the NFL. But that angle says to go with New England. Justin Houston, one of Kansas City's best pass rushers, is out. KC also without their star safety, Eric Berry. And New England should have all their banged-up skill position players playing, including Josh Gordon, who, of course, has been questionable every week, has missed some games. All right. Now let's take a look at some of the live odds at mybookie.ag. And as we look at some of these biggest moves and whatnot, the biggest consensus in terms of percentage of bets, Minnesota, Atlanta, and Pittsburgh. Biggest consensus in terms of percentage of money, Pittsburgh, Atlanta, Minnesota, and Jacksonville. Some sharp versus square metrics that we have, with most of the sharp money's on one side, square money on the other. New England and Jacksonville. These are Vegas and offshore sources. The biggest line move so far, Chicago went from a pick. They're now up to, I see, minus 6.5. The lines that we used were consensus lines, and now let's see, Washington from minus 2.5 to plus 1, and I see at mybookie.ag they're now up to a 1.5 point underdog. Cleveland went from plus 1.5 and to minus 1.5, and you can see the live lines there at mybookie.ag, and what we were talking about, New England is more than a 3-point favorite, even though the straight-up records would suggest they should not be. And as we said, that's an angle that says to listen to what the odds makers are telling you, or the odds makers are. A lot of people say, what are the odds saying? And kind of scratch the Cleveland one as I see the line move. We said they went from +1.5 to -1.5. That game is now a pick, and in fact, juicing towards the Chargers. All right, folks, again, join us tomorrow. We're going to do a broadcast. I should have said this also at the top of this report, just a programming note, that next week I'll be visiting my son in Columbus, Ohio. He goes to The Ohio State University. So next weekend, sorry, we will not be doing the live broadcast. I may try to sneak in one. We'll have all the picks. Well, we already have the picks up by then, but so we will not be doing the Sunday broadcast next week. We will return, though, in 2 weeks. Make sure you visit offshoreinsiders.com for the sharpest information in the world.
Me, but also you. The Pharaoh fast forwards his favorite foreign film, Powder Donut. Okay, what's my line?
The only line I see here on the script is get options based on your budget with the Name Your Price tool from Progressive.
Oh man, that's a tongue twister, huh? I'm sorry, I'm gonna need a few more minutes. Bulbous Walrus, the Bulbous Walrus.
The Name Your Price tool, only from Progressive.
The owl ran afoul of the comatose coxswain.
Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates. Price and coverage match limited by state law.